So with all the recent negative headlines about, Tesla, Nio, and other manufacturers suffering because of the global chip shortage and how it's going to affect electric car production, a lot of people started selling off these electric stocks. Here's Tesla. Tesla is down from its peak to its lowest point a few weeks ago, 40%. Then we have Nio. Nio is down around 52.5% from its peak to its low just a couple of weeks ago. And yes, while the broader market has sold off, the QQQ, the tech stocks, the high growth stocks have sold off. We're starting to see some sort of recovery here. We haven't really seen that massive bounce back yet in these EV stocks, but after these recent announcements of March delivery numbers, these two stocks are ready to rally. There's a very high probability that on Monday when the market opens, these stocks will probably see bigger gains than the broader market. Let's start off here with Tesla. Tesla reported April 2nd that Q1 2020 vehicle production and delivery numbers were extremely strong. They reported 180,338 production, so they actually created 180,000 essentially Model 3s and Model Ys. They delivered 182,780 of these vehicles, and they also delivered around 2,000 Model S and X's, but they didn't actually produce any more of these cars right now, which, I don't know, maybe that's kind of a signal that consumers are shifting to the more affordable vehicles. They don't really want to spend, twice or three times the amount for the S and X. Perhaps at some point Tesla will start axing these vehicles. I'm not really sure what their plan is with this. I know they're refreshing the Model S right now, so maybe that'll actually pick up some more sales. But it's very interesting to see that their focus has been on the 3 and the Y. And then I'm sure once the 2 comes out, whatever that's going to be called, we're going to see massive adoption of that as well. It's going to be interesting because in a few years, we're going to see Cybertruck in this list, possibly semi-trucks in this list, maybe a minivan if they create that at some point, motorbikes, who knows. It'll be very interesting to see this grow over time. Just remember, a few years ago, this was just S and X. Now we have S, X, 3, and Y. So Tesla here, CNBC reported that they smashed numbers. They delivered 184,000 vehicles, and this was well surpassed what analysts were expecting. Analysts were actually expecting around, say, 168,000 on average. Estimates range from 145 to 188. So Tesla got very close to the high end here, and the average consensus was a joke compared to what they actually did. Now you may be wondering, how did they deliver the S and X if they didn't actually produce any? Well, they had around 2,000 or so, I guess, in inventory, and that's pretty much what they sold, and represented around 1% of the total deliveries for the month. Now Tesla actually wrote here that new equipment installed and tested in Q1. The company is now in early stages of ramping production for an updated S and X. So this is kind of in line of that refresh that we saw for the Model S. We're probably going to see this pick back up, say, in the middle to back half of this year. So who knows? Maybe it's not necessarily a demand problem for the S and X. Maybe people just know that, there's going to be a refresh. They're just waiting for that instead. Or maybe there's orders already placed for these vehicles, but Tesla's like, we're just going to wait till we refresh it and then deliver it to those customers. That is also a likely possibility. And let's not forget, the Model S Plaid is also something that's going to be on the road very soon. It's going to be very interesting to see this car. It's going to go from 0 to 60 in less than 2 seconds. It's going to be pretty much 99.9% of cars on the road. It's going to be fairly affordable. Now, I know it's kind of still a luxury car, but it's going to range from, 179,000 or so, 80,000 pretty much, around 150,000 according to Tesla's website. So it's definitely something that we're probably going to see a good amount of, because if you think of, higher end cars, fast cars, say the BMW M6, say like the M8 that's out now, maybe the S-Class from Mercedes, the S63 or something. Those cars are super expensive. They're well into 3 figures there. And Tesla's competing with that with a faster product. So I'm definitely thinking we're going to see a lot of these on the road. Now, the second piece of good news, of course, is for Nio shareholders. Nio's not forgotten. Nio is also here. They've come out and they also had phenomenal numbers. Q1 deliveries hit 20,060 vehicles, which beats Outlook, and March shipments reached 7,257 units. This represented an increase of 373% year over year for March, and a 30.1% month over month increase from February. Breaking down the deliveries more here in terms of their vehicles, around 1500 ES8s, 3150 ES6s, and around 2500 EC6s. Again, Nio is one of these companies that's growing rapidly, primarily in China right now. So once they do what Tesla does, which is, expand globally and start really ramping up production on a global scale, we're going to see these numbers also kind of just explode. Just think about it. If you think that Nio and Tesla are actually going to be serious competitors at some point, logically you'd think that Nio would be producing as much as Tesla, right? And Tesla, we just saw, produced 180,000 Model 3s and Ys. Nio is competing with that with these vehicles, and they only produced around 7,000 or so. So as they ramp up, they could possibly get to these numbers as well, possibly even exceed that. The Chinese market is actually that big. Now, this was overall really, really good news because, again, there was so much fear around the chip shortages, how that's going to affect Nio. Nio even said it's going to affect us. Don't know how bad, but they knew that it was going to affect them. And here you can see that even with all of this, the deliveries actually beat the outlook of 19,500 vehicles, which was provided earlier this week. This is telling me that most likely in the last week here in March, they had massive amounts of deliveries and production of their vehicles to get them to consumers as fast as possible. And keep in mind, this also notes that on March 26th, the company temporarily suspended its vehicle production due to chip shortages for 5 days. So imagine if the last few days actually didn't have that suspension. These numbers would probably be maybe 1,000 or so, possibly even a bit more than that, more, because most companies like Tesla and Nio, they try to push as much towards the end of the quarter so that they can meet these numbers. Anyways, I thought this was pretty interesting, guys. Let's see what happens this week here. I think Nio seems to have found some sort of bottom here. They're very oversold at this point. This is the weekly chart. If we go to the daily, you can see we've tested this with a double bottom here on the 200 moving average. I want to see it clear these two moving averages, and that'll kind of be clear skies up ahead for a run for highs. And then in Tesla's case, we came down to the 200 here. We pretty much bounced off of that. Tried to come down for a double bottom, but we didn't quite get there because it is quite strong. But we can see that this 50 moving average is a very strong level of resistance right now for the stock. It's failed to break past this ever since we broke down in late February. It's rejected it quite a few times. We rejected it even last week. So it'll be interesting to see if on Monday we can get a pop above this and then boom, clear skies ahead. Tesla possibly running for $900 per share once again. And of course, if the NASDAQ continues its move, it has pretty much cleared its moving averages. It's starting to make a move higher. We may get a little bit of a retracement here to kind of fill this gap, but overall the trend is looking good for these stocks. You can see Tesla is actually a very similar pattern here to the QQQs, and overall I am bullish on tech, EVs, growth stocks going forward. Anyways, guys, hope this video was valuable. If it was, take a second, hit the like button down below and subscribe. But anyways, thank you so much for watching. Don't forget to invest positively, and I'll see you in the next one. Peace.